And when the wind and waves get high and threaten to overwhelm us, we remember his words, do not be afraid. Take courage, I am with you. So let us go with faith to follow where Jesus leads, confident that his love and presence are with us.
after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, but fettered by the waves because the wind was against it.
Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear.
But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid."
Lord, if it is yours, Peter replied, let me come to you on the water.
"Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus.
When he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink. Cried out, Lord, save me.
Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?"
And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God.
This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Please pray with me. Father, we come before you today in worship and adoration. Your name is the only name worthy to be praised and honored. Father, I pray that you bless Justin, that he may speak the words that you want him to speak. And Lord, take this word and apply it to our hearts and lives, that we may do the work that you want done. Lord, transform us into the image of your Son, Jesus Christ. Send us out into the world that we may meet people where they are and bring them to Christ, that they may become like Christ also. Father, guide us by the hand of your Holy Spirit. Give us just what we need for today. Bless the entire service and bless everyone as they go about this week. We pray this all in the precious and holy name.
Well, happy Father's Day. I guess that applies to exactly one of us in the room. That's all right. A special day to come together and celebrate our fathers who mean so or should mean so much to us. And we pray that God continue to guide the fathers and those who will be fathers, even those who are not fathers this morning, as we reflect on what our Heavenly Father has done for us. Well, I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about today, because halfway through the summer I'm starting to run out of stuff, which is not a good thing. I'll have to drum up some more. But I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, what I wanted to share, and the thing that was most present in my mind was something that I've shared with you about a couple times and bits and pieces throughout my time here, and we talked about it last week, was this theme for my life, this testimony of mine, which is walking on water. I've given you snippets of this story of this mission trip I've been on, this rafting experience that I had. And so today I want to share with this story, this testimony with you again. And some of it may be a repetition for you, but I want to give you the whole picture, and I want to journey together and looking at what it means to walk on water, what does it mean in my life, and what this one out of many experiences I had, what the lessons it's taught me and what it has shown me about this idea of taking a step in faith out of the boat onto these crashing waves of the water. So I want to begin by really sharing you my testimony. It's going to start this summer. Before I came to Mid-America, I was preparing to go on a mission trip to Chicago, and I had resolved, for whatever reason, that I was going to cover this trip in prayer, which you should do it for every trip you go on, but I was committed to this. I was showering the trip, the leaders, the students, the people we'll be working with and ministering to, and where I would walk and speak with God and ask for Him to bless our travels, bless the students that were going to be involved, help us to bless the city of Denver, and help those we work with to bless us, that new things and good things and transforming things would happen to us. And I was starting to get really excited about going on this trip about going on this final mission trip with my youth group to the city of Denver and experiencing all the things we were going to experience. And so in the midst of that, I had this impression, and it's something that I still believe, it's almost a constant feeling really that that God was, well, obviously God was going to answer my prayer, and God had something big planned. I had this little mantra that I had in my head, that when it's something a little like this, it says, I would say to myself, do you hear that? The Spirit's whispering on the wind. God has something big in store. So are you ready? Because He just may want to use you. It's Him again. So after hearing this word in my own life, and it was just pressed on my heart, God is doing something. God is moving and working, and it is going to be big. And I began to incorporate that. I said, I know something's coming, this revival, this transformation. I know it's going to be big, bigger than I could ever imagine, God. I prayed for that. I asked for that. I know that You prepare myself and those around me for this experience, for this work that You are doing, that You may use me to the best that I can be, that I would be Your instrument, that I would be available to You. And I incorporated this into my prayer. And so along those lines, I would find myself entering my, I call it like my little prayer hole. I never described it to you before, as I would see myself as I was speaking with God in a visual image, mental image of talking face to face with Jesus. And this started actually a while ago, but during this time, this interesting variation of what was happening showed up. There was this train, and Jesus we got to the track, and Jesus would turn around me and say, "Come on, let's go. Are you ready? Let's go." And I looked at him and said, "Ready? For what?" I said, "You'll see. Come on, let's go." And so during this time, I noticed I was hesitant. I was asking questions like, what about this person in my life? What about this relationship? What about, this aspect of where I am, about these plans, about, school? What about, this ministry? What about my quizzing? Asking like, where is this going? And so this, I would go to the same place and have the same response. And eventually, I realized what I was doing was really stalling, but I also heard what broke this cycle, and this seems, Jesus spoke out to me and said, he, she, they're on a different path. I have my own plans for them. They're at a different place than you, and maybe your paths can cross again. You're on a different path than these people. So he kept on encouraging me and said, "Okay, so you ready? Come on, let's go." Inviting me to get on this train. And this time I would say, "Okay, well, I'm not ready. Where are we going? I can't be ready." And I said, "No, where are we going?" And he says, "Come on, let's go see." And I will change my answer a little bit each time. Well, I know, God, I'll never really fully be ready for what You have in store for me. I said, "So, okay, it's all right. Come on, let's go. Come on." I would say, "Yeah, God, I know." And then finally I wised up and I noticed that I said, "Oh yeah, God, I know I'm never going to be ready, but I know that even if I'm not ready, I know that You're there. I know that You'll take care of whatever I'm lacking." So He said, "Come on, let's go." And at this point, I'm like, "Okay, I can go now." But I saw myself when I was in this place, and I would just stand there. "All right, let's go," I would say. I was going, and I wouldn't move. I wouldn't step forward and climb onto this train to go wherever it is that Jesus was planning on taking me. Came to the place again, and so He said, "Come on, let's go." And He said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "I'm never ready. I know You take care of it. In fact, I know this." And I was reminded, and I brought back into my life a phrase that I had used, something that I said earlier. It's not the prepared, but those whom He made prepared that God has called. And that entered back into my life, and I started hearing this as I was speaking with God in this way again, and I began to really start coining that term and using it regularly and incorporating that into part of my walk. It's not the prepared, but those whom he may prepare that God has called. But still, as he said, all right, come on, let's go. I said, yeah, let's go. I can't wait. And I would just stand there on the side of these traps. I was praying for something big to happen. I was waiting to be on board with what God was doing, but for some reason I was standing there. I didn't quite understand what was going on. And this scene changed, and I shared with this a little bit about you last week. This idea of, or I saw myself standing on this rock, this solid foundation, this place where I could stand firm, and Jesus was out on the water calling me out to him, or I would be pacing back and forth through a nice walkway or a path, and he would keep on going where I thought the path had stopped, and said, come on, and I would at first didn't recognize the path ended, where there was nothing else in the image beyond where we were. And then the next time I saw that there was a sea, this ocean beyond, Jesus saying, come on, come on. I'm like, I can't. I'm not Peter, and even he didn't get that right. Walking on water, what's this about? I kept on saying, come on. So I was being convicted about this idea of being called out of a safe, the sturdy foundation I was standing on, this rock, and going out to the loose, unstable terrain of the seas. Come out of this ocean, and all the while I'm praying and eagerly waiting and expecting and getting all excited for this mission trip that I'm going to go on. And then the time comes, I get there, my prayers, I'm ready for something big to happen. I'm expecting God, I'm expecting to encounter him. So we get on the vans, we load up. I'm surrounded by plenty of friends, classmates, a community of people that really have transformed my lives over the past 4 years. Offer, in some ways, a one last hurrah together, before, especially for those of us who were seniors, where we would scatter to our various universities, a few of us to America, some to Southern Nazarene, some to other various colleges in Iowa, Kansas, across the world. And we began to have a great time. Sunday came, and we went to 3 different church services. We stayed at a place called the Church of God, Beth Abraham, which was a church founded by a young man who was the son of a Jewish rabbi, and he had some wandering years, and then he found Christ. And so he founded this church, and he named it after the synagogue that his father had, Beth Abraham, and they ran, not really one for labels, but what was very much a Messianic church. They were Christians, but they were deeply connected with the Jewish and Hebrew roots. We sang songs and worship in Hebrew. We did for traditional ceremonies. It was a real and enlightening and fun experience. Then from there we went to a place called the Potter's House. It was a predominantly African-American church, and they were doing a special service on worship. So some of you probably know what that means. It was a great time, a lot of singing, and it was enjoyable. And we went to a place called Scum of the Earth. It was founded by, incidentally, a music group that my youth pastor happened to love back in several years ago. And this place was a place where they literally just let anyone in and off the street, people we would see coming in there, snuffing out their joints and cigarettes, throwing away their bottles and coming into church. It was very free. People were playing worship songs. A guy got up and started dancing. A little girl was twirling. And it was just a place where it didn't seem that the judgment that people often associate with high church was there. We had a lot of fun. We went into Monday and Tuesday having more and more great experiences working with the homeless and the hungry, and meeting people, being blessed by people, and being able to have the opportunity to bless people, and seeing some sights around the city. And we came to this time, we just hearing one woman's powerful testimony, and we decided to say, let's just, our pastor said, come on, anyone wants to share what they've experienced so far. And so we sat and watched people win, and they said some nice things. I stood up and I spoke to the group, and I really wanted to thank them for the years that I had since I had come to the college church and the youth group, for what they have been and meant to me in my life. And then the individual stood up their testimony. A woman whose name I can't remember, who was in a seminar for us, came in and spoke to us and really got after us about how brave this individual was. We surrounded that person, praying for them, and it was amazing just to see a group, a community of youth come together and pray over their friend. Then I stood up and said, does anybody else have any ideas about Pastor? So I know others of you have this story. I've spoken with your families and you people. And then just seeing one of our leaders step forward and fell to the knees on the stage and begin to weep and pour out to us how they felt. They were just running low, dry, and they've been pushing ahead. They're out of energy, out of steam, out of touch. Someone that had meant a particularly great deal to me, although I couldn't give you a good reason, just someone who shared with me and allowed me to share with them. And came around this individual and this leader, and we all prayed and poured out ourselves. And it was wonderful and powerful, and the Spirit moved and worked through his prayers, and we came together, and something was happening, and I was realizing it, and I said, this is what I was talking about. And so one day, I broke in and I prayed, and I said, God, this is amazing. So I prayed, I was asking, I was anticipating you to do something big, to move in this trip, and I could never expect this. I wasn't ready for what you were planning to do. And then foolishly I added the statement, and it's going to be Tuesday. Which only set up for something more unexpected. Wednesday, the next day, was the day that we were going to go whitewater rafting. You probably know me well that day. That's not typically up my aisle. But the youth group knew who Justin Barnes was, that they knew of me, and they were not going to let this individual not get in this raft. And so we came up to where we were. Now, mind you, this was the water was now filled with the snow melt runoff from the mountains, big, the really big ones. And so the water was cold and fast and high, and I mean cold. We got all bundled up in our wetsuits, and I only had one pair of shoes to my name, and so I wore my shoes, the shoes onto this raft, and we get going, and we're going along, and for mostly without incident. I know after I get out of this boat, people are going to come to me and say, so what did you think of that? So I'm already preparing my answer. And so I was thinking, this isn't too bad. I don't necessarily regret getting in the raft and doing this, but I'm not particularly enjoying it. I was right. It wasn't really my thing. And then it happened. There's a rock. Here's our raft. I hear some confusing shouts. They're trying to overcorrect. Now, mind you, here's one of our leaders. He's a really big guy. He's actually college today than you, and he basically dictated where we go. So if he paddled, the rest of us really just went that way, and so it would make it easy to overcorrect. So we're trying to get ourselves off course for this rock, but there's no good. Apparently our guide said, brace yourselves, but I don't remember hearing that. Next thing you know, our raft hits the top of this rock. We go like this. We don't technically capsize as the boat falls in this, but we're all dumped out in the river. I hate the cold. I hate the water. And here I am, me not wanting to go on this boat in the first place, and I find myself in the freezing cold ice melt river. And there I am panicking, cold, upset, wondering what in the world is going on. And I'm also, if anything you know about rafting, they say that the most dangerous thing that can happen to you if you raft is if you get in the water, you start to stay vertical and you touch the bottom. Because then they have what they call a foot trap. Your foot gets caught in between some rocks, the force of the water pushes your head under, and why they're taking about 7 minutes or so to set up a rigging to actually get you out of there. You're under that entire time. So at first I'm doing that. I finally recognize that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. I get on a back float, but I'm not seeing anywhere near where I'm going to be able to. It's only a temporary decision-making position, and I need to find myself a raft to swim to. I feel terrified. I felt like I was drowning, and even after I got on my back, the water still splashed over my face, my nose, my mouth. It's freezing cold. And I am terrified, more scared, and hurt, and really shaken than I've ever been. I hear someone say, swim over here, and I'm like, who are you talking to? Because there's like 6 of us falling out of this boat. And I turn around and I swim to this place. I grab a hold of the little rail around the raft, and another one of our leaders tries to pull me in, but they're not quite able to do so. Pulling in, I finally, in desperation and maybe a little bit of indignation, cry out, help me! I found out later that it ended up taking 2 more people, or students there, to pull me into that raft. I got into that raft, and then this raft rescued several people that had fallen out of our boat. So then they asked me to jump in from that raft into another raft that was next to it, and I'm thinking, no way are you going to make me do that. The leaders, the guys are shouting, are being louder, trying to be like, forceful, get into my boat, jump now. So eventually I jump into this boat, we get to a calmer place, they have me come out on the side of the bank, and I sit there and rest. They try to get me to get back into a different boat. It's not full again, but it's on the side. I just don't have the strength to walk. They need to move on, so they get me back in the boat. I'm situated between these 2 young ladies, and I'm in this point, I'm shut down. People know there's something wrong. I'm not talking. I'm not all that responsive. They're trying to comfort me, and they say, hey, Justin, this guy, he's the designated rescue raft. He's never lost a single person, even on the expert track. That's, by the way, I was told we were going on the beginner little section of no, we were on the intermediate. I'm still a little bitter about that. And then they invited me afterwards to go on the MNU's rafting trip on the expert track later that summer, and that was never going to happen. So we're drifting down the rest of this river, and I am shut down. Looking at myself, they're asking questions like, what happened? First, they check to see if I have a concussion. What's your name? Where are you? Can you quote some scripture for us? Speak Japanese. I do all that rather frustratedly. Like, really? Right now? But now I'm trying to figure out what did happen. Because for so long, I had been a kind of person who just kind of shoved himself aside. I ignored and overlooked emotions and feelings, and I realized that wasn't healthy or good for me, and I was trying to come to grips with what was going on so I could understand what had just happened to me. So I'm searching my response, trying to remember, okay, what happened when we hit the rock? What was going on in my head as I was in the water? I was searching. People comfort me, giving words. Finally, I started to talk just a little bit, and everybody's like, Justin's back. We're drawing near the close, and it's a beautiful sight. As we're going down this river, we look up to what they call the foothills, which for a Kansas boy like me is still huge. And it's only then, after the storm had passed, after I was in the safety of this boat, that I find myself thinking, muttering the words of a song that is based off the psalm. As I look up to these foothills, I lift my eyes into the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. But even these words seem to give me a little comfort as I'm searching, struggling to figure out what was going on, to deal with the panic, the terror, this post-traumatic, whatever you want to call it, the perceived hypothermia, all this stuff that was in my head. I was wrestling with the realities that I faced as I realized what happened and what I did and said, and to myself and to my God in the river. You see, I was in that place, and I felt the Spirit of Christ come up alongside me. He was there just as He promised He would, just as the Scriptures had said. And here in this moment, I respond, get away from me. Leave me alone. Why in the world? You knew I would hate you. Why did you make me get inside that boat? Now, of course, I'm smart. All the reasons, all the perfectly valid and justifiable explanations for the reasons I got about all the lessons I would learn, the sermons I would use this in, the transformative experience, even though you asked me for it. You've been praying for something like this for months now, and you asked me why, but I didn't want to hear it. Because I was panicked. I felt like I was drowning, and it's the most uncomfortable and unsettling thing I've ever experienced. I was cold and wet. I couldn't find comfort or peace, and so even as I sung these words, and I calmed myself down a little bit, and found myself searching, I all of a sudden was troubled by a new reality that when it came down and the moment counted most, Justin Barnes, the National Bible Quizzer, this, at the time 17-year-old prophet, whatever fancy names and titles I desired to give myself, he, in the moment where it counted, pushed God away. Leave me alone right now. My mistakes, my failures, and I had to face that. We got out of the river, and I found out later that we had the newest guy, the least experienced. It turns out that the advice and the instructions she had given us were completely wrong, which didn't help the situation. Immediately after we go rafting, we return to the Potter's house to help them fill out in their food pantry. And now I feel a whole new kind of bad. As I'm shivering, my mind is still telling me you're freezing, and my feet, my socks are wet, don't have any other shoes to put on. They decide they take my shoes and go put them in their heavy-duty dryer for me, and I'm sitting there on a chair, wrapping a blanket around me while the rest of my youth group on this mission trip is helping fill this food pantry. And now I'm feeling a whole new kind of bad. So I'm struggling with this trauma, this experience, and yet here I am in the midst of people that are working and serving, and I'm with nothing. People come up to me and encourage me, and some are try a little more tough love than others. Here, it's just in your head, and I'm thinking, of course I know I'm not stupid, but right now it doesn't matter that it's in my head. That it's just in my head, because it's in my head and it's got a hold of me. I'm scared. I'm cold. I felt like I was drowning even if I wasn't. I feel like I am hypothermia even if I don't. I'm definitely experiencing some sort of trauma, even if it's not a diagnosable PTSD. I'm not having fun right now. We got back to the place we were staying. We called people's parents. I learned a little bit about the experiences the other people were following in life. One young lady hurt herself on the bottom of the river. One drifted a lot farther downstream. But most of the other people in the boat were okay with it. The two guys that were with us enjoyed it. But I was here traumatized. So as I was sitting outside this room over the main dining hall, they called it like David's tent. It was too cold in there for me. I sat, and the leader that we had prayed for the day before, they came and sat down next to me. I didn't know what to expect. More advice that didn't seem to make a dent, more scriptures that I already had memorized and tried quoting to myself that didn't seem to be working like the magic wands to scare away my pain and my doubt that I thought they were. But she came alongside me and shared with me her own experience of trauma and loss and dealing with crisis. We had a conversation that seemed to work in circles and walked around the fringes of really what was going on when I had fallen into that river, and then we get along this idea. She starts talking about Moses and Aaron. I don't even know why, but about how God sent Moses, and Moses said, I can't speak, I'm not a good talker. And so I said, okay, you can take Aaron with you. But as it turns out, Aaron didn't do hardly any talking in the stories about Moses and Exodus and the rest of the Old Testament where he's in the picture. And I said, yeah, I know this idea that I had been praying about earlier, because see, one of the little phrases of mine is that it's not the prepare, but those whom he may prepare that God has called. So even in that moment, this one thing over everything else, for all the scriptures that I memorized, that one phrase came to mind, and for some reason this leader, they told me and said, say that again. At first I just thought they thought that was a neat little thing, they might want to use it. And so I said, It's not to repair, but those who may repair that God has called. They make me say it again and again and again and again. I don't quite understand why. But for some reason, she's having me reinforce and repeat something that I had held on to, that I knew that I was sure of. It still took me a little while to dry off and warm up. The showers were cold in the place where we were staying, which didn't help. But I got on with the rest of the week. We had an amazing time. We get back and I go to an evening service to give a short testimony about our trip to the evening congregation at College Church. And I stand there and I share a little bit of the story of a little bit of the tent, how I fell in, this experience that I was still recovering emotionally, spiritually from what had happened. But I knew that I would get to the other side of it. And afterwards, they had some people come up and compliment me on my presentation, on my testimony. And then Mike Goff, professor at Mid-America, came up to me. I didn't know who he was, and he says, "There's this book that I would like to give you. It's called If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Get Out of the Boat." A couple of weeks later, that book comes to me in the mail. I still haven't quite got the time to read it yet, but it's one of the first ones I'm going to when I do get the opportunity. So this is my experience. Just one example of where I walked on water. And there are a lot of lessons that I have pulled out. There's a lot of good reasons for God to have stuck me in that boat. To begin with, even going back to those prayers I had beforehand, this emphasis that we each have our own walk with God, we each are our own path, God has His own story to tell, and we cross paths. God's plan for us intersects with one another, but we each have our own place, our own time, and God knows it's perfect. That even if we're ready, we think we're ready for what God is going to do, seldom are we really are. When the big time comes and God's big plan goes into action and the transforming work He's been planning comes through, it's rarely anywhere near as calm as we expected, but it is far more inspiring and powerful and nothing we ever prepared for. But as I held on to this fact that it is not prepared, but those who may prepare, that God is called. That when God decides to work and to answer our prayers, it's never really what we expect. And that when crisis comes, oftentimes we make things worse because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. The same way I was vertical when I should have been floating on my back, that it wasn't helpful, that I wasn't going to get safe by going my own way, and that when I needed help, that I had to ask for it to really get out of the water. That it takes more than one person to rescue those who are lost or who are fallen or in need. That it took 3 people to pull me out and back onto the ground. And that it is after the storm has passed, after the storm, that we look to the hills and praise the God from our help comes from. The storm died down in our story, in our scripture. They got in the boat and the storm died down, and that is when the disciples said, "Truly you are the Son of God." That we have to take time and give others the time to sort out what's going on, to deal with experiences and hard times, that we can't expect them to get up, dust themselves off, quote some magic scriptures, and move on. The Jeremiah 29:11s and 1 Peter 5:7s aren't scriptures that we can wave around and make our troubles go away. They're promises that God is there and always will be there, and that we will get through it, but they're not incantations or magic words that just by saying them make everything better. That oftentimes we need to stand on what we know. That when we do have hard times, even when sometimes the words that we think we need, the words of encouragement that are so common that everybody expects or thinks that you have to give, you're alive, you got out of there, you're okay, it's going to be fine, you don't really have hypothermia. That we should, first of all, welcome those as the help that they are trying to offer, even if they aren't helpful. but also that what really helps when we stand on those things which we know, those anchors, those hard points that we can hold on to. But in the midst of all that, I want to focus on something that it's deeper I experienced, this walking on water. First of all, I want to stress the importance of this, that what I learned from this is that the waters, when you walk on waters, they're going to be stormy. It's not going to be Lake Titicaca. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's apparently this lake that my grandpa says is perfectly still and glass clear. You can see straight to the bottom. No, the waves, the waters that we are called to walk on are stormy, deep, murky, and they're not going to look pretty. The winds and the waves are going to be affecting the boat that you are trying to step out on. It reminds me of the song, The Casting Crowns, The Voice of Truth, where he says, we step out onto the crashing waves outside of our comfort zone into the realm of the unknown. He said that the waves call out and mock us, saying, you'll never win, reminding us of how we tried before and failed. Or in the song Oceans by Hillsong, they refer it as deep oceans, the great unknown. However, it is in these stormy waters, on this unsafe ground, not on the rock, not in the boat, not on the shore, but it's in the ocean where Jesus is holding out his hand, where Jesus has called us out onto the waters, the place where we find him. We are called out of the boat wherever he may lead us, farther than we think we can go, where our trust is without borders. Just as for me, when I was in the river, despite the fact that I pushed Christ away, more than many other occasions in my life, I was in that river on the waters when I had stepped out, where I encountered Christ in the most significant way. And as the title of this book says, as the professor reminded me, in order to walk on water, we have to get out of the boat. We have to step out in faith, and it's a hard thing to do. We have to pray that God will give us the strength. The song, The Casting Crowns, opens up by saying, oh, what I would do to have the kind of faith it takes to step out of this boat I am. And in oceans, the singers cry, Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. So today, I want to encourage you to listen to the voice that's calling you and saying, you will be okay. I'm here. Do not be afraid. That we call upon the name of God. And trust him that he will be there when we step out of our boats, wherever they are, to where the raging seas and oceans are stretched out before us. But perhaps the most important lesson for me was the idea that we will sink. When we step out onto the waters, just like Peter did, we will be shaken and we may start to drown a little bit. This is the unknown place where our feet may fail, where we've tried before, time and time again. Each time we screwed it up, just like Peter. We were all gung-ho to say, come, if that's you, call me out upon the waters. And Jesus says, come, and we jump head first. And before we even look around us in the storm, and we begin to find ourselves floundering and sinking. And it is this reality that when I stepped out of the boat, and when the storm, when the gale hit me and knocked me out, that I had failed, that I had turned away from the comfort and the help that I had professed and encouraged and taught so many others to follow. And in the moment where it mattered most, I turned away. It shook me to my core. I was convicted and guilt-ridden because I didn't understand that it's okay for us to sink a little bit. It's okay if we stumble, fall, because the truth of the matter is, just as it says in our scripture, Jesus immediately reached out and caught him. There was no delay. He immediately caught him. Doesn't always feel like Jesus is there. Doesn't always feel quite like he's got a hold of us. But he does. Towards the end of the Voice of Truth, they break into a different tune. They start singing that the waves, they don't sing so high from on top of them, looking down. And in oceans, they say, in oceans deep where my feet may fail, my faith will stand, even though it doesn't always seem this way. Rather, we fight and we struggle and we doggy paddle just to barely keep our eyes above the waves, and that's hard. Whenever I hear this song play, I get to that verse and keep my eyes above the waves, it breaks me down because I've experienced what it's like in rapids and freezing cold water to try to keep your eyes above the waves, the panic, the terror, and it shapes me. But my eyes are held above the waves because I know that even if I cast him aside, he doesn't go far. But he lingers there waiting for me to call him, to welcome him back. And really, though I am sinking, he keeps me from drowning. The storm does still rage. And the interesting thing I found is that it's in the moment of doubt. You see, we often have these pictures in our Christian fiction movies and books and stories that when the follower of Christ, they get down, the world's on top of them, they're struggling, they're being crushed under the evils of whatever the antagonist is, and it's in the moment when they decide to recommit to God, when they say, I trust you, is when they pick themselves up and say, truth is my sword and faith is my shield, that they muster up the strength and God gives them the power to go over to the victory. But that is not the way it happens in this story. No, it is when Peter is doubting, when he starts to sink, he sees the waves and the waves buffeting the boat, and it's when he becomes afraid and starts to sink that Jesus steps in. And for me, it was in my moment of weakness that Christ came close to me, and even though I turned him away, said, it is going to be all right, and I will be waiting here for you. So don't think that you have to have it all together, that you have to read your Bible 5 times a day, and it's immediately after you say the magic prayer that Jesus is going to step in, because he can step in and will step in the moment when you feel like you just screwed up the worst. When you feel, that's it. There's no way I'm coming back from this one. I spat on God's name far too many times, and I don't think he can save me this one. And it is in that moment where a light breaks through, and a love so powerful that it conquers the grave, steps down, and it immediately reaches out and lays hold of us. And it is this affirmation that Hillsong sings that I draw my hope from. It says, Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders, and I will walk upon the waters wherever you may call me. Oh, lead me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior, even when it doesn't seem like God is there, even when it doesn't seem like anyone is there. He is, and he will strengthen you and let you, the next storm that comes will be easier. The river experience was easily the most traumatic experience of my life. I don't tell people as much until 4 or 5 months later, when something that I'm still in the process of recovering from, to be entirely honest. I'm on the better side of it now. But I had another fallout, another crisis moment, another storm. But I had gone through one, and my faith had been made stronger. So it made it easier this time to step out of faith, to climb out of my boat and get in the boat. The great irony of it all is that for me to climb out of the boat, I had to climb into another boat, and go out on the water, go out into a place that isn't comfortable to you. And although I felt forced, all my friends and my companions and those who were on the mission trip with me encouraged me, much to my chagrin. But I stepped out, allowed God to work. It wasn't what I wanted, it wasn't what I expected, but it was life-changing, and it was changing for the better. I can go underwater again for longer than 15 seconds now. I don't feel shakes constantly anymore. And I'm okay. Because I know where my home is from. Even in the sea when I can't see the hills, my eyes are barely peeking over the waves. There is God walking on water, walking with me. And so when I came to the first opening session of a Bible study, I was in Mid-America about the book of Acts, and particularly our chapter in the story of God. My icebreaker question was, if you named your chapter in the story of God, what would it be? And I said, my chapter would be walking on water. Not because I've always done it, but because this is the way God's been speaking to my life through this imagery, this story, that my walk, my journey with Christ isn't going to be easy, isn't going to be safe, and it's going to be sure and true. I could never imagine that when I finally took a step onto that train, and Jesus was saying, come on, I have something so exciting for you. And months down the road, after heartbreak and failure and stress over too many school assignments, but along the way being plenty of new friends and great experiences, that I would find myself surrounded by a team of people that I would never have gotten to know otherwise. Working with them in the service of God, that I would step out once again of my comfort zone, my really big little church that I had become to love and know and never want to let go, to find a really little church. Because God is faithful. We step out in faith, climb out of the boat. I forgot to bring it, but I actually do love going on boats, going fishing with my dad. And we have this oar. You have to keep like a wooden oar paddle in the boat, safety reasons. And so when I was practicing, this oar was out for some reason. I found it in my hand, and I'm like, okay, this works. So if you came in this morning and you received a piece of paper and a pen, we're going to be using that now. If you didn't, there are on that back pew next to Jessica, right next to Jessica. And what I want to ask you to do is, so for me, as I said, my stepping out of the boat was really climbing into this raft, and so the oar is what you use to paddle the raft. And so for me, I would, if I was, where you guys, on a piece of paper, I would like you to draw an image, something that symbolizes for you an act, a step of faith of climbing out of a boat. Maybe it's something that you've done, maybe it's something that you need to do. And then in the image or on the image or somewhere near it, I encourage you to write something that you've learned from it, or that you may learn from it. Some way in which you were strengthened. As I said, there's plenty of things that I learned from this experience, but the one that was most impactful to me, that it's okay for me to fail. God's world and plan doesn't fall apart because one time Justin got scared while in rapids. So for me, I would draw an oar, or have my oar up here and write, it's all right to fail, or you may sink sometimes. Then if you're comfortable, if you finish your image, before we leave, you're comfortable, I would like to take images or pictures of them. We'll include them in our video. We post it online. If you don't want to, that's fine. You don't have to write your name on it or anything. And then you'll be able to take them home as a reminder if you want, or throw them in the trash if you like. But as a token to remember the importance of stepping out in faith and what a transforming experience it can be. I'd like to invite Ian and Jessica to come back up as they lead us in one final song as you work on your images, your tokens. Let's pray together. Father God, we thank you for testimony. Not mine specifically, but because I know that each person here has a story to tell. I've heard some of them, or parts of them, and they are amazing testimonies to the faithfulness and the power and the love of God. I thank you that you have gifted me with the opportunity to share this story today. I never imagined in 7th grade church camp when I leaned over at my friend and foolishly said, I wish I had a heart-wrenching story like that speaker, or a story of near death and experience, or returning from a life of addiction or prison, because God reached people. I never would imagine that when you finally gave me what I asked for would be something like this, something that for me was more dramatic. But I thank you that you were there through it all, that even though I didn't understand, and even though I didn't grasp it, that you knew what you were doing. I thank you for the lessons it's taught me. I pray then that what you have spoken today, the testimony that you have called out in my life, that someone here may have heard that, and you reminded them of their testimony, of their story, of their boat or wave or storm, and remind them in an ever soft voice that you love them and you're waiting for them to take just the first step. It doesn't need to be a run, it doesn't need to be a jump, but continue to step out on the water. Help us as we go from this place, as we finish this evening, this morning in worship, to step out for you. Step out onto the water where Jesus is. He's holding out his hand. Thank you for everything you've done for me, for what you're doing in our lives, and for what you will do. In your name I pray. Amen. it's like. I'm one of those who knows what it's like to literally fight to keep your eyes above the waves. But somewhere along the line, sometime in this journey with Christ, we will all, in one way or another, fight to stay afloat, to just keep our eyes above the raging waves of the storms that are around our lives. And I pray that when the time comes, the next time, or when you look back on when it has come, that you will be reminded that in it all, Christ was there. And that through it all, Christ will be there, even if it doesn't seem like it. So take a step out of the boat. Take a step in faith onto the storms, waters, where Jesus is. And may you walk upon the waves. Go in peace. You are loved. You may be dismissed.